Welcome, YouTubers. I was digging out some of my old code, so I'll talk about blackjack and card counting and whether or not it does or doesn't work. Short answer is it does actually work. What is card counting? Well, you'll assign a value. Very simple. There's a lot of different types of card counting, but the most common one is you'll assign a value to your tens and aces, face cards, and that'll be a, let's see, a -1. And anything 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are a +1. 7, 8, and 9 count as a 0. And so every time you see one of those cards come out, you do plus or minus, and you're just adding it together. So if you see a bunch of low cards come out, it'll be 1, 2, 3, and then if your 10 comes out, it'll go back to 2, and that type of stuff. So you're looking for real positive results, or in other words, a lot of 10s and 11s in the deck, or a lot of high cards in the deck, because high cards in the deck are good for the player, and low cards in the deck are good for the house. And so what I'm going to set out is just try to prove that. So here's a routine I wrote in Excel, and I got the dealer's hand. I'm going to deal 6 cards to the dealer. I'm going to deal 6 cards to a player, and then I'm going to deal 6 cards to a player's split, just in case I have to split. So I've got some rules in here, some splitting. It's not totally perfect, but I'm going to do 10,000 hands. First of all, you clear the contents over here. Over in rows A and B, I've got all the cards, and as you populate a card, you can no longer pick that card. So it's a one deck scenario here. And in this thing, I'll clear it out. And these are trial runs. So 41 through 52 would get rid of all my low cards. Actually take 2, 3s, and 4s out of the deck. So pretend you had a deck without 2, 3s, and 4s in it, and see what the result is. So that's the result of having a lot of high cards. When I remove 5 through 12, that takes away, half the 10 cards. So 5 through 12 are these rows here. So it automatically populates with those, and you can't select those cards. So I'm taking away half the 10s. So that simulates a lot of a high percentage of low cards in the deck. And in general, when I run it, I won't fill any cards. I won't take any cards out of the deck, and that's what I'm going to run here, is just get the results when I don't take any cards out of the deck. I've already run all 3 scenarios, and I'm just going to show you what the results are. So basically, I'm going to deal 6 cards to the dealer's hand, player's split, and then whatever the up card is the first card in the dealer's hand. And if it's if the dealer has an ace and a 10, or a 10 and an ace, then they potentially got blackjack. And then it's going to check for you whether you got blackjack, and if they do, then it pushes. Otherwise, they win right away. There's no insurance here. I'm not doing insurance. And if they don't have a blackjack, if you have a blackjack, then it'll add. And that's, of course, the dealer doesn't have a blackjack. You get 1.5, so I'm doing 3 to 2, not 6 to 5. 3 to 2, 1.5 payout. And same thing. So those are your 2 blackjacks. It's going to look for some scenarios of splits. So if the dealer card has less than a 7, and you got a pair of 2s, pair of 3s, pair of 6s, pair of 7s, pair of 9s, it's going to split it. And if it doesn't matter on the dealer cards, if you got a pair of 8s or a pair of aces, you're going to split those also. And when you split it, I'm just taking the second card in the player hand and swapping it out with the first card in the alternate hand, the split hand, and that's good enough. It's random enough. I got a bunch of double downs, both for the primary hand and the split hand. So if you've got a 9, a 10, or an 11, and their up cards are there, less than a 7 for the 9, and that's normal double down, and it's the same thing for the second one. So that's where you take one more card, and that's your result. Then I go through a hit routine where if the dealer's got an up card greater than 6. And you're less than 17, you're gonna take a hit. If you're already busted, if they're less than 7, dealer's up card is less than 7, you're gonna stay, which isn't the best scenario, but it's pretty close. Whatever. And if you got greater than 16, you're gonna stay. So I do the same thing with the split hand, and then it comes around and does the dealer's hand, and it's gonna compare it all. And so basically, you're gonna win, you lose, you draw. Right? And that's it. So let me go ahead and run that. Let me first of all clear out the last results. This will be random here, so it'll be a little bit less or a little bit different. than what we had the last time. But basically, in general, you're going to win right away. You're losing about 45% of the time. You're winning about 36% of the time. You're going to get blackjack. Should tame down to about 4.5. Right now, it's at 4.8, and at 4.5%, they get blackjack and you don't. So 8% ties, and then less than a 0.2%, you'll both get blackjack. So that's what I'm looking at here. It's doing 10,000 runs. But I'll end up with a little more than 10,000 hands because every one I split, I'm counting it as 2 independent hands. So I ended up with 200 extra hands over the 10,000. Final numbers are you're going to lose, just normally without a blackjack or anything at 45%. About 37% you're going to win. 5% you're going to get blackjack. 4% they're going to get blackjack. So those numbers should actually be a little closer to each other, but this is a random example. There's a little margin of error here. But closer to 8% you're going to tie, and that less than 0.2 you're both going to get, and it's just a wash. So the numbers end up being, effectively you lost $2,800. This is on $5. You're doing $5 table, $5 betting each hand and each set like that. When you double down, it'll be 5. So you're losing $2,800 normally when you're normally playing on 10,200 hands, or roughly 27 cents a hand. So anywhere 25 to 27 cents a hand is usually what you lose on a $5 game. And when I did that before, that's what this set is here, and it's very similar. I was losing 26 cents. So, and it's 5.2% if you do it as a percentage of $5. So that's what you lose in general per hand, and if you did 10,000 hands, you'd lose that much. Now this example over here is when I have just high cards. So I take out my 2s and 3s and 4s out of the deck, and magically it pops up to you actually winning $1,300, $1,400 over 10,241 hands, and you're making 13 cents. So it does make a difference, right? Your dealer tends to bust a lot more when there's a lot of high cards in the deck. And this is what happens when there's a lot of low cards in the deck, and it's worse because it's minus 7,600 versus the minus 2,600. So you lose a lot more when I took out half the 10s out of the deck. And so that's why card counting will work. Again, 10,257, set minus 74 cents. So when you got minus 25 cents, plus 13 cents, and minus 74 cents. So it's a lot worse. So card counting would work. A little bit drastic when I took half the cards out and not the other. I guess that would be my plus 10 or something like that. Well, half the cards are so plus 8 if you just took half the cards out. So yeah, that would be that's the results, and that's why card counting does work. They can try to shuffle the decks on you or ask you to stop playing if you're winning a lot of money, but 10,000 hands, you're not going to win a ton of money, but not at the $5 level. So that's it. Enjoy.